Hey guys, it's Kipp from Carnivore Kipp, and tonight I have the awesome Amanda from Carnivorous Me. How are you doing tonight, Amanda?
I am good. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, and I was talking to you just a little bit before we went live, but I want to go ahead and reiterate it to everybody that's watching. Whenever I started my carnivore journey back in January, your channel and a couple other channels were one of the first channels that I started watching, and that's the actual reason that I reached out to you to talk with me tonight because I could relate to you and because you had struggled with weight and things like that. So thank you so much for being here and thank you for talking with me tonight.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let me pull up on my phone and I did have a couple questions, but then also we can take questions from people. Like if y'all have any questions, put a cue beside it and we'll try to answer some questions if we can. But I also want for people that don't know for Amanda to tell just a few things about her. So I was going to ask you, um, when did you notice that you struggled with weight or carb addiction or anything like that? Was it early or later in life? Just tell me a little bit
Um,
about that, Amanda.
I've been dealing with being overweight since I was 12, and I was overweight, not obese at that time through my teens. And even I think in then I when I was in my teens, I felt kind of ostracized because I grew up in the 90s, in the early 2000s. People weren't as overweight then as they are now. And so I kind of was like that outlier as a teenager of being overweight. And I didn't actually get obese until I was in my 20s. I mean, I've struggled forever. There wasn't anything specific other than when I got closer to like the upper 200s and then the 300s, doing basic tasks like bending over to tie my shoe, having to hold my breath. The end of the rope for me was struggling to wipe my own butt. Like that was like the end of the rope there.
Yeah, I remember watching a video where you actually said that. And that's one of the things that made me be like, "Hey, this girl's for real." For her to come on the air and say that to everybody, like, she knows what it's like to struggle. And then,
Yeah.
you talking about your Rolade walker and stuff like that, and I'm like, "That's somebody that I want to follow," because we have the doctors and they have their place. I love watching the
Oh,
doctors too. And I love like Dr. Chafee, Dr. Berry, all the different doctors. But like sometimes I just like to watch somebody that's actually been where I'm at and somebody that's actually gone through some of the, because not everybody's been severely overweight and dealt with different things. So did
yeah.
you whenever you were, struggling with weight and stuff at the different times, did you kind of just ignore it for a long time and pretend that it wasn't an issue and then one day you decided to make a change, or how'd that go?
Well, from the time, I mean, all my stuff goes back. I started dieting when I was 12. And that was my dad put me on different diets and would make my middle, because I'm the youngest, he'd make my middle sister weigh me because I refused to let weigh in front of him. And when I say this, I've had people be like, what a terrible dad. I look back on it now, and my dad did the best with what he could, with what knowledge he had at the time. He wasn't doing it to be mean, he was concerned about me. But I mean, I've gone through periods, I've done every diet you could imagine. My favorite, but not really, was eating boiled white potatoes for months on end. That was a fun one.
Wow.
And then I would go through periods where I'm like, forget it. I'm fat. I'm always going to be fat. I'm just going to eat whatever. So I've been on and
Mhm.
off diets forever.
Yeah. So there's some people that say it's just a problem with the person or whatever, and then there's other people that say that no, there's an actual thing as sugar and carb addiction or anything like that. When you hear the words like sugar and carb addiction, what are your thoughts? Do you think that that's actually a thing people struggle with, or what?
Yeah, I 100% believe it is. I watched a video recently. I don't know if anybody else has seen this. I think it was on Instagram. And it was a probably 8 to 12-month-old baby tasting ice cream for the first time ever. And the dad's holding the ice cream cone, and the kid licks it, and their eyes go like, "Oh my god." And the kid reaches and grabs the ice cream cone and shoves it in his face. And it's like, this is a baby's reaction to having sugar, like this amount of sugar for the first time. If a child is doing this, if a baby's doing this, what is it doing to us as adults?
Mhm.
My husband and I were actually talking. It'd be an interesting graph to create how the sugar consumption has increased over the years and how diabetes, like the two and two together, because supposedly I was reading somewhere that the amount of meat people eat has actually decreased over the years, yet sugar has increased and so has diabetes. So I
Mhm.
100% know that it is an addiction. And the thing too is sugar is easy to get. It's a cheap food to get. And for most of us, like people like me that have experienced binge eating, we somehow, some events in our lives, we've trained ourselves. Eating sugar makes us feel good. So when we feel bad, we tie it to our emotions. I got to the point where happy, I would eat. Sad, I would eat. Depressed, celebrating, anxiety. Like I ate to not feel feelings. And I feel like most people do nowadays. Like the
Mhm.
people who get really, really overweight.
Mhm. Well, I mean, since you started your carnivore journey, do you
Mhm.
feel like, and I've thought this myself sometimes, do you feel like, being carnivore has helped tremendously with it? Or
Mhm.
what about having your channel? Do you think that that played a role in helping you to get on track and stay on track, or do you think it's a mixture of both?
Um, Carnivore, what carnivore did for me, because I mean, I also did this because I have the autoimmune stuff. It made me face my sugar and carb addiction. I
Mhm.
would, and I hate to admit this, but this is a reality. I would emotionally and mentally manipulate my husband to go, because I was 360 pounds. I wouldn't leave the house. I would emotionally and mentally manipulate him to go get food for me. And I look back on it and it's just like, I don't even recognize that person, but I would do that. Like, don't you love me? Aren't you going to go get me that cake or, whatever, the burger and fries? And like, don't you love me? And
Mhm.
that is exactly what addicts do. They will manipulate and twist things just to get what they want. And so with carnivore, it made me face the fact that I was a carb and sugar addict. And by removing all of it out, I couldn't lean on foods that would give me comfort. Meat satiates me, it gives me energy, it gives me the nutrients I need, but I don't get, I mean, I enjoy eating steak, but I don't get like that numb feeling I would from sugar. As far as the channel, I did it and I do it to share my journey and help anybody else that's struggling because I've been at that bottom of that barrel. I've, the not being able to wipe my butt, praying I didn't wake up every single morning, wish I just died in my sleep. I've been there. It's been honestly more of a struggle with it. And the reason why is because I've let over the years other people's opinions of me mean more than my own opinion, more than my husband's opinion. And so when people who have not nice things to say about people who overweight or if they don't approve of carnivore and stuff, that's honestly been a struggle throughout my channel. I will be very honest about that. It has gotten
Mhm.
much, much, much better the past 6 months, though.
Absolutely. And I've had to deal with a lot of people, even on the channel, if I don't do things exactly the way they see it.
Mhm.
Because, with carnivore, I mean, I love carnivore, but everybody's got a different opinion. And some people
Yes.
say you have to do it this way and you have to do it that way. And I've had people to be like, if you don't do this, I'm unsubscribing. I'm just like, really? But
Yeah.
I mean, you learn that, I mean, like you said, you were doing this for you and me. I was doing this to document my journey so that one day I could look back at it. I never thought in a million years, and I'm sure you didn't think as many people would start watching you and actually supporting you
Mhm.
along the way. It's an
Yeah.
unreal, like you can't fathom it. But
It is.
go ahead.
I was say it really is. Before I started my channel, I had no social media. I had a Facebook when I was in high school and I hadn't used it then. I didn't even have my own YouTube account. I would just like, be like the anonymous person on YouTube, never leave comments. So this has been quite a roller coaster for me.
Yep, the day I started my channel was the first day that I actually ever filmed a video for YouTube, and I just hit and did it on my phone and just tried to figure out how
Perfect.
to search how to actually upload a video. So, I mean, it's not like we're all professionals. We're just sharing our story and hoping that it can help someone else.
Mhm.
So has I know for me, being on carnivore with it getting so much junk out of my life and taking away so many like different sweets and all that stuff, I feel like it has helped me to learn some of my triggers. Have you
Mhm.
had that same feeling, like some of the different triggers that you might have, you've been able to pick up on it since starting carnivore?
100%. I love Korean dramas. And but the problem is though the shows are usually they're very food orientated, and I found watching them, while I was watching them, I would get hungry. I wasn't hungry before, then I'd watch them and I realized for me a big thing is out of sight, out of mind. We have no sugar of any kind, and I mean like none in this house. We don't have flour, we have nothing in our house. And not having it there makes it so much easier to just not resist it.
Mhm,
It just, that is a big thing I think for me is not having it in my face. Something recently that my husband and I realized is because he does carnivore too. Granted, he was never really overweight, but he does it with me. He would say, like, oh, I'm craving donuts. And I would realize that was like a chink in his armor. And I could just like needle that until he'd break and go get them because he really wanted them too. And
mhm,
he's stopped for the past month mentioning anything like that he wants. It has helped immensely because there's no chinks in his armor that I can see. And I have to say, I'm super proud of us. For the past month, we have not had a single cheat. I had a Caesar salad, but I'm going to be honest, I don't consider that a cheat because I had no croutons. But we've had not a single cheat, and that has been really helpful for those of you out there. I'm telling you, I cannot believe how important it is not looking like on Instagram, looking at food reels and things like that, like just seeing chocolate cake, not seeing those kinds of things is so helpful. So
mhm.
helpful.
And the fact that you mentioned, like, having something like salad, I've noticed if I have something off plan like that, it doesn't really affect me at all. Like, if I've had, like, mushrooms or, a different vegetable, it doesn't really affect me the same way as if I went off the rails and had donuts or something crazy. When I have something like that, like, it and I can get by with it for a day, but whenever I keep doing it and keep doing it, like, it throws me way off the rails. And I'll
Mhm.
be honest with you, the whenever I started my journey, I feel like the first 6 months, I felt like I thought that I had it whipped, and I was like, "Oh, I got this." Things are going so great, and then I started letting little things come up and little triggers come back. I guess I almost feel like I got comfortable a little bit, like, "Oh, you've got this now," and that's whenever the slip up started happening. So the second half of this year has not been my best half of the year, and that's why I'm actually really looking forward and excited about 2024 because I know that I need to tighten things down because I know that I can do better.
Yeah, and I made it 10 months
Wow.
before things kind of fell apart. I'd say fell apart. My soul dog died, and I've actually never lost somebody or someone that I've cared about so much in my entire life. I guess I've been blessed about that. And it's taken me honestly the past 6 months to get back on track. Like I would do really good and then have a slip up and then do good and then have a slip up. And it kind of kept me at this, like I wasn't losing weight. I was just kind of stagnant. But at the
Mhm,
same time, I have to say, even though those times like that you've experienced too and others have experienced, even just keeping the status quo, not going back to the previous behavior that got us there, I think that's still a win. Because
mhm,
even now, like my video that I released today, it's like it's taken me a year and a half to get to the point where I was at the pet emergency room Saturday that I had the thought of I should go eat something. And within 5 seconds, like this happened in a 5 second span, you should go eat something. And it's like, no,
mhm.
you won't feel good. And it was gone. It was in and out of my head that fast. And it's taken me a year and a half to get there. And I know there's some people who do carnivore and it's like 2 months, like, oh, I'm amazing. There are some people like me that it's gonna take longer, and it's okay. It's
Yeah.
life. Life is not perfect.
And real quick, I wanna let everybody know that we have over 130 people in the chat, so
Woo
thank
woo!
y'all for joining in
Hi,
and being with us.
everybody.
Yeah, and if y'all forgot to hit the like button, hit the like button and help us out. We definitely appreciate y'all showing the love like that. Uh, let's see. I wanted to ask you too, and then while you're answering that, I'll look at and see if we got any questions in the chat too. But I've heard you multiple times when I watch your videos talk about Jordan Peterson. How did you
Mhm.
find out about Jordan Peterson? Because I can't remember how you found out about him.
Um, I've listened to Jordan Peterson for a long time. My brother, I think, was the one that probably, or it could have been my husband. It's been a few years that I've kind of like listened to some of his stuff. And then finally, I actually read his book way before I started Carnivore. And then when I started again, I reread it again. And it kind of, I looked at it from a different lens and I got so much more out of it. I'm going to be honest, I've read the book 3 times. His first book, I can't, it's over there 12 Rules for Life. It's an amazing book. And I tell people, whatever your feelings are about him, set it aside. And the book has so much valuable information and guidance in it. It's a hard read because there's times you're going to read it and be like, oh boy, I guess I'm actually like that. Like I had some heavy hitters where I'm just like, I've been doing that. Wow, I am that person. Like admitting to myself I was manipulating my husband because I wanted sugar and crap. That was a hard swallow.
Yeah, I actually love Jordan Peterson too. I didn't read any of his books until recently,
Mhm.
but I had watched him on YouTube a lot because I love listening to him on YouTube as like podcast and things like that. So, but he's awesome. But I did now that you mentioned the 12 Rules of Life, that's the only one that I've read, and I haven't finished it yet. I started reading it probably like a month ago, but I've been so busy. Is that one good? Beyond
It's the
Order?
second one. The first one's better, but I'll tell you the second one's still quite helpful. But this is his second one that follows up that one.
Yeah, I'll have to get it. And see, I've only made it through like 5 chapters and he's already kicked my butt. Like he
Yeah,
like the stuff that he tells you, he really makes you think about
yeah,
things. And he was talking about like letting your if you let your kids get away with anything and all this other different stuff, and I'm just like, that's right, because I see kids that act up and all. Just he's got so much knowledge, and it's not
yeah.
just about health things, it's about so many different things in life. So someone asked Lance asked, are sweets the biggest problem or is it junk food for you guys? For me, I almost consider sweets and junk food similar type things, but what is your interpretation of that question?
I'm wondering if they mean more like chips and just like those kinds of junky foods and things like that. Mine was sweets. It was always reaching for sugar. Cake was my big thing. Cake, when I had an emotional upset, just go get a piece of cake. You'll feel better. And so mine was, I was never a chip person. I actually have TMJD, which is temporal mandibular Jesus joint disease. So the chewing, I couldn't do chips. It was probably a saving grace, or I probably would have been over 400 pounds. Cake, soft and chewy. And
Yeah.
that's what it's taken a year and a half to get to the point where I can just literally have a huge upset. Last night I thought we are going to have to put one of our dogs down. And I ate a Caesar salad with no croutons. Like that was my response for dinner. That's a huge
If that's cheating in your book, you're doing amazing. Just keep doing what you're doing.
change.
If that's your off-plan thing, that's perfect.
I
Oh,
personally don't consider that cheating. I could consider it more keto for. Uh,
absolutely.
some some people might, but
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, like, that right there is, like, the perfect plan if, like, you, because I like how even Dr. Berry talks about if you're gonna go off of your normal plan, go to the one step different than that. Like, if you're carnivore, do
Mhm,
ketovore, or if you're keto or ketovore, do keto or something like that. It makes a lot of sense. But me,
mhm,
I'll just be honest, sometimes I have went completely off the rails for different reasons, and I'm trying to learn my triggers still, and I've been
mhm.
picking up on some of them. But yeah, we do have a super chat. So thank you, Lynn E, for the super chat. She says gratitude for sharing your journey.
Lynn,
Absolutely.
I see you got your last name off your tag. I'm glad for that.
All right. I got another question right here. We're just gonna answer a few questions real quick.
Go for it.
I don't know if you know Rick for Charger Mar Party. You know him?
I have watched some of it, yeah.
Okay, yeah, he's hilarious. He says my question, and you can't ever take his question serious sometimes because he likes to joke and have fun. My question is, how how anyone can settle for duck food when there's tasty steaks, fried chicken, fish, duck, iguana, any other tasty meats. See, he's always clowning because he always says he feeds his ducks different duck food or whatever. I know you're being silly, Rick.
Hey, I've heard, I actually had iguanas as a kid. We did not eat them, but I've heard iguanas kind of taste like chicken. So,
Oh, and I see Cordelia has a question for you. Let me pull that up and then I'll go back to the normal comments. You can read it if you want to.
yeah. Cordelia, wondering if Amanda still has 1 or 2 flavored element packs a week. Can you still moderate the sweets? I do. I actually don't seem to have a problem with the stevia, but it's the only sweet thing that I do is that. That's it. Last week I tried this. It was called, I think it's called Alani. My brother-in-law had them and I tried it. It was a energy drink that had, it wasn't stevia. It was some kind of other sweetener because I looked at the back of the can and the list was like that long of ingredients. It had a sugar alcohol in it. I did not do well with those. I didn't get cravings, but my stomach was like very angry at that. So the
Mhm.
stevia in the few elements that I do is literally the only thing of sweetness that I get. But I probably do one a week more now,
Mhm.
sometimes two. But mostly do the raw element because I just like dump it in a cup of hot water and drink it, and I'm done.
Yeah, for me, my first so many months on Carnivore, I did only drink water or plain uncarbonated water, and
Yeah.
off the recommendations of some other people to try it, and I was doing really good with that. And I know you know what Celsius is, don't you?
Hmm.
Well, for me, and I still love the way they taste, and every now and then I'll allow myself to have one. But whenever I was doing really good for so many months, I drank a Celsius, and I feel like it triggered me because of the sweetness that was in there. And I know they affect everybody differently, but for me, it made me just want like everything from the past. And within a couple, like the next day, I was like, I'm going to buy 2 Celsius. So I bought 2 of them and then drank them. And then before you know it, I was off the rails. So for a while, I had to just stay away from them, and it might just be for now. I just need to leave them alone and maybe later on go back to it and see how it does. But for right now, I'm just trying to stick with plain uncarbonated water because that's the easiest way for me to stay strict like I need to.
Do you ever drink just carbonated water, like the no sweetener carbonated water, like LaCroix and stuff?
Yeah, I do. And then right now I bought a soda stream, or someone bought me a soda stream, and I just take it and I carbonate the water and I don't put anything in it. And so by doing that, it's basically it tastes just like Topo Chico and LaCroix and
Yeah.
Bubbly, the plain one.
Yeah.
And are you able to drink those, or
I
do you
do.
like
I
them?
do drink like the flavored with the no sweetener in them. Those are, I've never been a soda person, but I was an apple juice person. And there is, I believe it's Aha's the brand. It is
Mhm.
a Fuji apple, but it has no sweetener, no artificial sweeteners, no stevia or anything in it.
Mhm.
Those don't affect me at all. Cordelia's end of her question was, can you still moderate sweets? The answer is like sugar sweets. No, I'm going to say no. I haven't had any for a month. I mean, I will say that I've never gone back to the way I was eating before this. So I guess it's a little bit of a yes and a little bit of a no to that. I'm not going to go tempt myself and put cookies in the cabinet because out of sight, out of mind. I just don't want it if I don't see it.
Yeah, and see, there's people that say in the community that say that a little bit of fruit's okay, and if it works for them, that's them. But for me, if I had fruit, that would affect me worse than having a Celsius. Like if I had the fruit, just that flavoring of it, that would
Mhm.
make me the next day. I would be wanting to have like some uh, Oreo ice cream or something like that. So I just have to stay away from all that stuff.
My opinion about this, and this is Amanda's opinion. That's what I always tell people. This is my opinion. It doesn't mean it's fact. But if someone's metabolically healthy, like not Dr. Chafee, who's the other one? He said honey.
What's his
His
name?
name is escaping me. Does
I
anybody
know Paul
remember?
Saladino.
Yeah, Saladino. He is about, honey is fine, fruit's fine. And it's like, if you're talking to people who have been metabolically healthy, that have been able to moderate, and they're really doing this just for health reasons, and they are physically active, it probably, and I say probably because I don't know their, body, they probably are fine. They don't have, insulin resistance. They don't have the issues with moderating stuff. People like myself, binge eaters that have had, that are diabetic, that have experienced issues with controlling and moderation, I think it's the worst thing we can do because one, it slows down our bodies getting better from the insulin resistance, so becoming more insulin sensitive, because fructose actually affects our blood sugars more than just table sugar. It does.
Mhm.
And so, to me, in my opinion, if you are someone that is trying to lose weight, addiction of any kind of sugar and carbs, a diabetic, unhealthy, I don't think it's the way to go.
Yeah.
But that's Amanda's opinion.
Yeah,
So,
and for me, I was coming in at Carnivore right at 500 pounds. At my highest weight, I was 498 pounds. And if you would have told me, hey man, you can have sugar or you can have fruit and things like that, because I was a diabetic too. If you would have told me that, like I would probably still have diabetes because I would have kept falling off the wagon constantly, and like I would have been stalled out. I wouldn't have been able to lose my weight
mhm,
if I don't know, I just feel like personally for me, it's one thing like if let's say I'm stay on track for 5 years and I reach my health goals and things are going great, and then I want to experiment. But most people that's on this carnivore journey, they're not at that place yet. But
mm-mm,
there's some people that are. There are people like you said that when they started carnivore, they were already pretty healthy and they were just wanting to try something different. They didn't have like some medical reason. They just like to try something different. But a lot of people, at least that watch my channel, they're struggling. I deal with a lot of people that are dealing with, being overweight and things like that. And if I was to tell them, hey man, have some bananas or have some this, that, and the other, like it wouldn't be good for a lot of them.
And that's the thing is someone told me one time, they're like, "Oh, you can't get overweight on fruit." I'm like, "Yes, you can. I could sit there and eat an entire watermelon in one sitting by myself. I could, orange juice, just give me some fresh oranges, I'll squeeze them. That's eating oranges, right? And then make
Mhm.
myself homemade orange juice. It's very easy to overeat it. And then the other thing about that is people don't realize is once you start infusing just a little bit of sugar, whether it's fructose or sucrose, whatever it is, once you start infusing it in there, your body prefers sugar, glucose for energy. Why? It's very, very simple to access for energy. It takes more time, and this is why we have to go through carb withdrawal to get to the fat burning because there's more stages to get the energy out of the fat in our fat cells than there is glucose. And our body wants to do what's easiest. Spare as
Mhm.
much energy as possible, not the complicated. So if you keep infusing fruit into there, you're going to go back into those insulin spikes. And that's the other reason I'm just like, unless you are very physically active, because then you're burning through that glucose real fast. People like me, no fruit. I could eat
Yeah.
pints of raspberries in one sitting.
That was the thing that got me because I tried keto before I went to
Yeah.
carnivore, and I had actually had some success with keto, and I'd lost like 70 pounds or 60 something pounds at one time, and I was really thankful for that. And it taught me a lot about low carb actually working. But the thing was, I kept wanting to eat too many strawberries and too much,
Mhm.
and the what is it, the different nuts that you could get at like
Oh,
Costco
yeah.
and things. And dude, I would just like eat tons and tons and tons of pecans and stuff. And then I would be like, man, my scale's not moving. And it was because that stuff is considered keto, but I was eating way too much of that stuff.
Yeah.
But I had a question right here that someone, where did it go? Uh I can't find the question, but oh, here it is. They said, my radical healing rebellion said, do either of you find that cheese will trigger other food cravings? I had to give it up because somehow pushes my craving buttons and also stalls my weight. What about you, Amanda?
I did experience a month where I was eating a lot more cheese than normal, and it did stall. Right now, I treat cheese like a condiment, like either heavy cream, because that's all I do, heavy cream or cheese. I treat it like a condiment. My husband Scott loves queso, but I only make it once, maybe twice a month, because it is a lot of cheese. I'll put some on my burgers, but I really don't use it too much here and there. But I can definitely see how it's easy to replace things like if you're a sugar and carb addict with cheese and stuff, or if you're already a cheese lover, because it's a lot of fat. It's super easy to eat a lot of. And the thing is I'm not a calorie counter because calories are actually a very poor metric of energy expenditure. However, we do know that the stored fat on our body is excess consumed energy. And it's just very easy to eat a lot of it and get a lot of energy in a small amount. So I can definitely see that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. I'm trying to see. Um, Stephen the Carnivore says, I don't think honey would be too great in lowering my A1C. I'm trying to reverse my prediabetes. Yeah, I would agree with that. And then I
Yeah.
seen someone said, I won't pull the comment up, but someone talked about, Saladino, talking about the honey and stuff. But the thing is, like they said, he surfs like 2 or 3 hours a day and like he's super fit and all that stuff. And like, I
Mhm.
mean, even somebody like Dr. Sean Baker that's like super like buff and like always working out and always doing stuff like that, he might do fine, but I'm not at that place.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is getting the sugar taste out of the mouth, it allows our taste buds to change and we
Hmm.
stop craving the sugar once we stop putting it in ourselves. And it's just like constantly infusing just a little bit of sugar in there. But again, if someone's super active and super fit and super healthy and not experience metabolic issues, I can't, I've never been there, so I can't actually speak for them. I could see how it would be probably all right, but not for
Hmm.
people that like me, obese, overweight, autoimmune, all the stuff that goes with it.
You're probably going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but these unflavored carbonated drinks, after drinking stuff like that for so long, it
Uh-huh.
almost tastes like I can taste a flavor in it. Have you ever noticed that, or does it just
Yeah.
taste like plain carbonated water?
No, it has, but I call myself a water snob. Different water tastes different to me. Like Dasani, y'all don't hate me for this. I hate Dasani's water. It tastes disgusting.
That's my
Oh,
favorite.
I hate Dasani. Okay, Arrowhead's all right. Smart Water is one of my favorite, but I grew up drinking RO water because I grew up in Las Vegas and the quality of water is not good there. You do not drink the water out of your sink there. So I'm a water snob. I will actually just not drink water if Dasani's the only thing a store has.
Dasani is like my favorite one, but I do like Smart Water too. The
Yeah.
one that I don't like is Aquafina. I've never liked the taste of Aquafina. Never.
Aquafina, this is weird, but it kind of tastes dry. I don't know. I mean, I'll drink it, but it has like this dry aftertaste. It's like
Yeah.
wine almost, just all these like complaints of different tastes of water.
This wasn't a question, but they said that they had 2 days of OMAD and 19 hours fasting, and it kinda made me wanna ask you, like, what are your thoughts on OMAD, 2MAD, all that different stuff, and how do you what's a normal day like for you?
I have gone like I started carnivore at three days or 3 meals a day, snacks, and then went down to 3 meals to 2 meals to I did OMAD for months. I do 2MAD right now. And so I do like the intermittent fasting because my husband and I, we run our own business and we work from home. And so we'll eat around like 10 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And then I don't eat outside that window most of the time.
Mhm.
I did do a lot of OMAD and I did a lot of fasting, but for me as a female, it backfired immensely. My hair was falling out, gobfuls falling out. I was having issues with my period becoming unstable again. And I did a bit of research and actually talked to my brother because he knows all about fasting and that longer fasts like that, because I was trying like 2 and 3 day fasts, should not be done more than every few weeks, if not once a month, because of, especially for females, the issues it causes with hormones and things.
Mhm.
So I do intermittent fasting and too mad right now, and I'm
Mhm.
happy as a clam there.
Yeah, and I was having a discussion with someone a few days ago, and we were talking about how, how everybody there's this rage around fasting and things like that, or
Mhm.
craze about it. And I'm not anti-fasting. I try to do 2 meals a day most of the time. But like if I'm having like cravings for anything, then I'll bump it up to 3 meals just to make sure. Because I'd rather eat that third meal that's carnivore than eat that third meal being like Burger King or something like that. But I also think about like our ancestors, and I know that they sometimes had to fast because they didn't have food or whatever. But our ancestors, they didn't just go around saying, "Hey, I'm going to fast for 5 days just because," or "I'm going to fast for a week just because." Sometimes it happened like that. But now, if they were good enough hunters, they might not have had to fast at all.
Yeah, my view of fasting, and this is for myself because people do it for health reasons and for various things. I found I was doing it because I wanted to lose weight quicker, which is a very bad mindset for myself because then that leads me into restrictive eating and then binging. Like that's the path it goes down to. And like the intermittent fasting, it just happens the way it happens. I don't think I'll ever be someone that'll fast.
Mhm.
And the big reason for me is by forcing myself to fast and try to lose weight faster, it's saying there's something wrong with me right now. Yes, I'm not at
Mhm.
my ideal weight. Yes, I'm health-wise definitely not as healthy as I could be in any way, shape, or form. But it's like trying to push a round peg through a square hole. And what
Mhm.
it does, which is the worst thing, is it makes me rely solely on willpower. Day 2 of not eating anything, all I can think about is eating everything. It constantly, I think about everything every 2 seconds about food. But when I do my 2 MAD and my intermittent fasting, I never think about food. In the morning, it's like, "Okay, honey, what are we gonna make for dinner? Let's thaw it throughout the day," and then that's all we think about for food. And
Mhm.
I'm not
Yeah.
a fan of fasting, and that's why, especially for people who've experienced binge eating. And
Mhm.
like the fifth hundred reason for it too is I don't have a problem not eating. I have a problem when I do eat and choosing the right things to eat. So focusing on making right decisions around food is, I think, more important than just not eating because we all
Mhm.
have to eat at some point.
Yeah,
That's
and
me as
and normally whenever I do 2 MAD instead of, eating 3 meals a day, it's not
Mhm.
because I'm forcing myself to do 2 MAD, it's just because I'm not hungry for that 3rd meal. You're getting so much satiation from the ribeye and from the hamburger meat and all the other different things that we're eating that, like, a lot of times, like, breakfast doesn't sound good to me. And some people do breakfast and lunch and don't have supper, but a lot of times I'll just skip breakfast and just do supper. Now, if I come off of a binge or something, then I just eat as much as I want as long as it's carnivore just to kind of get me back on track. And
Mhm.
then after I get back on track, I let my body kind of adjust and tone it back down to a normal level.
Question: are you calling supper lunch or
No,
supper dinner?
supper is the last meal of the day.
Okay.
Because
Well,
'cause I'm
I
from
lived in
Alabama,
Southwest.
so in the South, supper is like, a lot of people, when they say dinner time, they're talking about, like, the
Supper.
last meal of the day, but to me,
Yeah.
that's supper.
Okay. Well,
Dinner is
I
lunch.
my mom's family's from Southwest Virginia, so they're from the South, and I actually finished high school there, and I lived there for 7 years. But
Mhm.
my grandmother called supper lunch and dinner dinner, but a lot of people in the South call supper dinner, so just trying to
Yeah.
clarify.
Yeah, I call what most people say as dinner, that's supper to me.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
lunch is just dinner, and then breakfast is breakfast. But,
Got it.
that's just the way it is down here. Let's see here. Lynn asked a question that, it can get you in trouble with some people if you answer it, but I'll go ahead and let you answer this question. You wanna read it?
Do either of you think there is any food you didn't eat in your life that is worth a potential trigger for more and more? At my age, I don't think I've missed anything worth my freedom and peace. Um,
I think I misunderstood the question initially because I thought they were talking about, is there anything that's worth going off plan for? Uh,
uh,
or like
so Lynn,
anything that if you see it at a party, you're gonna be compromised and be like, "Oh, I'm having that tonight." And for me,
so
there's
Lynn,
one thing that gets me, but go ahead.
yeah, Lynn's probably referring to dairy and cheese because Lynn actually lives near me and she comes to, we do monthly meetups, and she comes to the meetups and she's talked about dairy being that thing for her. That if could you never give it up? If you gave it up, could you survive without it forever as long as you had the freedom and peace? You know, after doing this for so long, looking back on it, I would be able to give up the sugar forever if I had to. Like if I ate another bite of sugar and I went back the way I was, I would give it up absolutely forever because it's not worth it. Cancer patients are a big thing about like they are going to die, so why not just enjoy the rest of life? And this is not judging anyone. It's just an example that came to my mind. And it's like, if I was in that situation, I wouldn't do that because of the detriment it causes. So yeah, sugar, cake. I mean, cake would be my very specific thing. Um, But yeah, I
Mhm.
don't know. Do you have one, Kip, that you would just not be willing to give up for the rest of your life?
No, I mean, if it means getting to live a longer life and spend more time with my daughter and my wife, like, anything that I need to give up is worth it. Like, if a doctor says, "Hey, if you don't quit this, you're gonna be dead in 2 years, but if you do, you can have a long life," like, I'm gonna choose to give up whatever it is. And, there might be some times that I mess up along the way, but I've never been told by a doctor, "If you ever have a slip up, you're dead." You know?
Yeah.
Thankfully, it hasn't come to that, but, I do wanna tighten things up and definitely get better. Someone asked a question about cheeses. Let's see here. Why do Stephen the carnivore says, why do some carnivore people prefer hard cheeses versus soft cheeses? Do you know about that?
So soft cheeses tend to have more carbs and sugars added to them. They tend to be of lower quality. Not always, but most of the time they are. Like pimento cheese and things like that. That really isn't quite cheese. Versus hard cheeses, they've had to sit longer and they tend to be more expensive and higher quality. Not always the case, but that tends to be it. So I aim for harder cheeses and heavy cream for mine. Uh, I don't really have tons of soft cheeses, but
Hmm.
that would most likely be why.
Yeah, I'm not going to add anything to it because I think you answered that perfectly. Let's see here. I want to trying to answer a couple more. Will Win says, "Did you have trouble losing weight during the summertime? I find myself losing weight during the winter." You want to go?
Summer is so easy, but I live in Washington State, in Northwest Washington State, and so we do hiking, biking, paddleboarding. We are super active in spring and summer. Winters, I've been losing weight. It is winter, but it's harder for me because it's what time is it right now here? It's 4:41 and it's like it's 7 o'clock outside. It's getting dark. And so I have a hard time with the darkness. Then so I find myself actually physically doing less and I have to ensure that I'm doing things during the light. So I'm the
Yeah.
opposite of there.
Yeah, for me, I'd say that summertime was easier for me because this is my first year on carnivore. So
Mhm.
during the spring and summer, it wasn't that difficult. But as it gets in this part of the year has been, and I'm not saying it's just because of the winter months, it's just I've struggled more this part of the year. And also I've catch myself feeling like festive and like because a lot of people talk about, it's Halloween and we're trick or treating and they have all this candy at work and then like every day there's more candy at work and then and people are like preparing for Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that. Now, this isn't your first year on carnivore, right? You started the year before me, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So this will be my second Thanksgiving on carnivore.
So how was Thanksgiving and Christmas and stuff your first year?
Thanksgiving did not do very good. I didn't do terrible, but I did not do very good. I had the intent of going there and just eating meat, but then I ate sweet potatoes, and then my sister-in-law made these homemade cookies, and I did eat them. And then my sister made a homemade pecan pie, and I did eat some of that. So I did not do well.
Mhm.
The one thing though is I was able the next day to go right back to carnivore. So that was a change. When I normally would have like taken leftovers home with me and I would have been eating Thanksgiving meal every day for a week. So that was a big change then. Christmas, I think was fine. We did probably a prime rib roast or a ham or something. I don't remember eating anything bad for Christmas, just probably meat. The
Mhm.
one concession I have given myself this Thanksgiving is sweet potatoes are my all-time favorite holiday thing. So I'm gonna do meat and a serving of sweet potatoes. And I'm like, if that's the worst thing that I have, then that's a-okay.
Do
Uh,
you do it like a sweet potato pie or like a souffle or something, or how do you have the sweet
she does
potatoes?
like a sweet potato casserole, but she's gonna leave because she'll do like the marshmallows and stuff on one side, but she'll leave some undone on my side for me.
Mhm.
It's delicious and I love it so
My
much.
my thing is like, cheesecake, and then there's different like 1 or 2 family desserts that my family's made, and
Yeah.
every year since I was a kid, I always ate that. One of them's called Blueberry Surprise, and
That sounds good, actually. I love blueberries.
I absolutely love it. And and with Thanksgiving, they do it for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so that right there is in the back of my mind. And if I don't know if I'll be able to make it through it. I'm gonna try to make it through, but we'll just see. We'll just have to see how tough I am, because this is my first holiday season on Carnivore. So we're just gonna have to see how that goes.
Stuff
Uh,
yourself silly with meat to leave
yeah,
no room for the dessert. Try
yeah,
that.
yeah. And someone said too, like if you absolutely feel like you have to have that dessert, eat the meat until you're about to pop, and then if you do have a dessert, you'll eat way less of it than if you, because some people will be like, oh, I'm gonna not gonna eat that much food because I want to save room for dessert. Like you need to get so stuffed you can barely breathe of your meat and stuff like that, and then if you want to try something, then I don't know, it's best to just stay away from that stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Someone
if you can, the whole out of sight, out of mind, it really is. But Thanksgiving, it's hard because there are going to be tons of non-carnivore people, depending on how big people's families are. The best
Mhm.
thing to do is ensure you're going to have a meat you like. So my husband and I put an order in for a prime rib roast that all the family members are going to pitch in on. And then we're going to take ham because my husband loves ham. None of my family likes turkey, so we don't ever bother making a turkey. So having meat that we love there is really important.
Have y'all tried smoked turkey?
I have had smoked turkey. I like turkey legs. My sister likes turkey legs, but there's only two on a turkey, and the rest of the turkey is just.
Yeah,
I've had like
you need
deep
to find a
fried.
pack of turkey legs.
So last year, she actually, I don't know if you've ever gone to the Renaissance Fair. They have big old smoked turkey legs. She ordered like 10 of them. So I did get some turkey last year.
Hmm. Yeah, I love smoked turkey. Stone Mountain Adventures, and he's got a channel too. He said, I need to hear more about this queso Amanda speaks of. Well, like, what kind of queso is this that you make?
It's actually very simple. I don't know if I have a recipe video. I will look. If I don't, next time I make it, I will record it. It's
Hmm.
super duper simple. You just need a base white cheese. You can use queso, like actual queso cheese. Most of the time, I just use whatever is honestly in the refrigerator because I want to use the cheese up. We'll use like a sharp cheddar base a lot of times. I put habanero and pepper jack cheese. So if you're someone that's like legit hardcore carnivore, I do have a couple more ketovore things in there. And you just have a little heavy cream, a little bit of butter. I put pickled jalapenos in there because I love them. And then diced green chilies. You just mix that all up and boom, you got yourself queso.
You make it kind of similar to the way I make one of my, because I actually smoke queso, and
Yeah.
I'll use like white cheddar and like sharp cheddar and stuff like that. It's not always the same, but I also
Mm-mm.
like to add hamburger meat to it, and to put in it, and then sometimes I'll put a little bit of rotel. I'll put like a little bit of the red, which has tomatoes. But see, I only have something like that maybe every 3 months. I don't do it all, because, and the reason it is because when I make it, I make big pans of it on the smoker, and I will sit there and eat myself to death with that stuff because it tastes so good. Even with
Yeah.
pork rinds, like I will just go to town, and it's way too much cheese. And so if I had that stuff around me every day, it would not be good. It would be a disaster.
Yeah, a lot of times I like to make chorizo and put the chorizo in there as like just kind of like a chili con queso kind of thing. It just depends on who's coming and how spicy I can make it. I do put some spices in there too, like garlic powder and onion powder, and then I will do some cayenne. But again, it depends on who's coming. My husband does not like spicy. I do, so I kind of mild everything down for him.
Yeah. Let's see here. Grab a couple more questions real quick. Carnivore couple, and I don't know if you've ever seen their channel, but they're a sweet couple. They said, Q, do y'all tell friends, family, and coworkers that you're carnivore? It's taboo subject in our society. I always just say that I'm eating a high protein keto diet. What about you, Amanda?
Oh, I tell people. I don't care. I don't care what their opinion is. I went to the dentist this morning, and the dentist remembered me because um, something about he mentioned cavities. I don't have any, but And he's like, oh yeah, you're the one that eats this specific food. And he's like, what is it again? I'm like, meat. I said, I only eat meat. I don't eat sugar or carbs. And he's like, oh yeah, that's right. I tell people all the time. I tell them because I don't actually care if they're going to say that I'm going to have a heart attack, heart disease, because I know they're just repeating things other people have said to them and they actually haven't read the studies themselves. But also, they had no idea where I was at 360 pounds, wishing I would die every morning. And I actually have helped a handful of people by just expressing it. But I can see, I mean, I genuinely can see not wanting to have that angst with people about it. So I tell people if they do have that, tell them you're on keto, like, or just say you eat meat with vegetables and let it be.
See, for me, because I live in a small town, like basically my house is in a field and like
Mhm.
it's super country. Like I tell people all the time, I could cut my grass naked if I want to, and nobody would ever know. But anyway, I mean, it's a rural area where I live at in South Alabama, and
Yeah.
so I mean, of course, I was so excited about the transformation. That's the reason that I decided to film it, because I was about a month or two in and the results were so good that even though I was nervous, that them nerves whenever you're trying to start a channel and you're worried about what people are going to think when you start talking. But I was just like, dude, these results are so incredible. I've never experienced anything like this. I have to tell somebody. And so I started telling people on YouTube, and then I started telling people in my community. And just like you, there were people, I still to this day, I get people like if they see me order just bacon somewhere or just hamburger patties, they're like, dude, you're gonna clog your arteries, you're gonna have a heart attack. I'm like, if you seen me a year ago when I was almost 500 pounds, you wasn't mentioning a heart attack then. You just talked to me like anybody else, and now all of a sudden you're gonna say that I'm gonna have a heart attack. I'm like, dude, I've lost over 100 pounds and I feel better than I ever have. So I'm just going to keep doing this. But the thing is, since I live in such a small town, I've
Mhm.
kind of run out of people to tell, because everybody in my town, they already know that I'm carnivore. They're like, that's carnivore Kipp right there. And so, and they pick at me and have fun, and I have fun with them too. But like now, most people know. So, I mean, of course, if I'm like at a doctor's appointment and somebody's asking how I lost weight, I'll let them know. But most people know by now.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I guess people in the comments were talking about rainwater and everything. So, let's see. We're at over 50 minutes, and I'll wrap it up soon. But I just want to know from you. So, and I didn't know how to write this down to ask you or whatever. But like when you start, because when I started watching your channel, I was about in the same place. Or you were at the place then that I was now in your journey. Like I was about 9 months in, or you were about 9 months in, I think, when I first started watching your videos. And now I'm about 9 months in. So I'm trying to figure out from you, whenever you how would I word this? So what would you tell yourself now that like if you had to start all over again, if you had to start carnivore from the very beginning, you didn't have a channel, you were worried about it, all that stuff, is there any advice that you would give to yourself to keep yourself calm and to actually give this a try?
Yeah. Honestly, a 12 Rules for Life is, I think, a very important book. And honestly, I think every high school student should have to read it. I really do. But I wish I had actually started with Atomic Habits first. We did book club and one of the ladies actually mentioned it. And so we did one of the books, but this, when people ask me what's the key to my success, and it's not necessarily the book itself, but it's the tiny habits. I got 360 pounds by having bad habits or
Mm-hmm.
negative habits, I guess is a better way to word it. That's how I got there. Just these small habits every single day, reaching for food. And how I got out of it is by changing the habits. That's it. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is no miracle. There's no miracle drug. Like carnivore allowed me to get there, but I wish I had started sooner with this book because I think I would have implemented my tiny habit changes more sooner. And yeah, I probably would honestly weigh less than I do now, but also I think I would have just been where I am now sooner, if that makes any sense. Like mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, just gotten there a little bit sooner.
Okay, so I'm on and that's good advice, but I'm on like chapter 6 now
Yeah.
of the other book, The 12 Rules of Life. Should I hit pause and should I go read Atomic Habits and then finish the other book?
Get to, I think it is chapter 7. What is the chapter? It's like don't lie, or so it's something like don't lie or at least tell the truth. I can't remember the name of it.
So
Hold
get
on.
there first.
I'm gonna grab it because I get through that chapter. That was probably one of, let's see, one of the most important chapters in the entire book.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, because I can hit pause on this book at any time and go to the other book because that's actually the next book I want to read is Atomic Habits.
Yeah. It's actually rule 8. Tell the truth or at least don't lie. Get through chapter 8, and then I mean the other ones are still very good because like be precise in your speech. But yeah, it's rule 8. Tell the truth or at least don't lie. That had the biggest impact on me for any chapter in the book. And the reason is I realized that mean voice in my head, like, you can't do this. I stopped believing in myself. And I realized it's because I used to hate when people lied to me and lie like, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and they never did it. Because we've all had
Mhm.
those friends that'll say, oh, I'll come help you. And they never actually show up and never give an answer why. I hated that. And I realized I had been doing that to myself for my entire adult life. I would tell myself I'd do something and then it wouldn't follow through. So no
Mhm.
wonder when I said, oh, I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to do carnivore, my voice is like, huh, yeah, right. You've lied to yourself so long. You're just a failure. And
Mhm.
that chapter just talks about the importance of not lying to ourselves and others. I mean, it's very important
Mhm.
we don't lie to other people,
For
but
sure.
not lying to ourselves because it makes us not believe in ourselves. So get through rule 8, and then I would switch to Atomic Habits.
Okay,
Atomic Habits is
I
also an
might do
easier
that because
read.
I'm getting there now. I'm on chapter 6, so I might do
Yeah.
that, get through 8 and then pause and go to the other. So, let's see here. I'm not gonna take any more questions, so, we're getting ready to
If you want
wrap
to
up.
finish the questions up, I've got 20 more minutes available if you want to keep going for a little bit longer.
Okay, that's perfectly fine with me. We'll answer some more questions. I was just trying to respect your time. Let's see here. We have Peter G asked a question. You wanna read it?
When starting to lose weight, exercise can cause injury and stop your health journey. Yes, it is very true. For those of you that don't know, I've spent 10 years in physical therapy, and like that is my background. And I strongly suggest, especially people who are morbidly obese and obese or who have been very sedentary, go very, very slow. Walking, that was my exercise. I would sweat profusely. Doing the dishes was my exercise. Take
Mhm.
your time because there's people that have never experienced it. They're like, what was that show, Biggest Loser? They would have these people running, and all I can think about is, oh my God, their joints. Oh my God, their spine. Holy crap, oh my God, they're gonna have to have a knee replacement in 5 years doing this. And that's all I can think. Our bodies need time to adapt. And there was a really good, I wish I could find it again, but it was pretty much a video explaining the use of energy throughout the human body. 70% of our energy consumption in a day is just the base metabolic rate, our sitting around doing nothing. It was like a
Mhm.
15% difference with if you exercised or not, just like a normal amount of exercise. It has such a small impact compared
Mhm.
to your base metabolic rate. Anyways, yes, go slow. Please, the Lord, go slow. It took me
So
months to get walking outside. Months.
so you didn't go straight from your rollator to running a marathon or nothing like that?
I used my rollator for like 6, 8 weeks, and then I weaned myself off of it. And it was hard, but I used that sucker outside.
Mhm. Grateful Keto, thank you for being here. She asked a question. Amanda, have you heard that any hormone imbalances can cause body aches? Have you heard that?
I haven't, but it would make sense. I mean, especially females, our hormones have to be like spot on par, and then being off, I could see how it could cause body aches and discomfort and things like that.
Mhm. Okay, let's see here. Someone says off plan for a pickle sandwich. I don't know what they mean by that. Pickle sandwich. Let's see.
Maybe the bread would be the pickles.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, if you had like a hamburger with just the meat and then put pickles on the outside, that would be
Yeah.
a good off-plan meal, definitely. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I got any more questions here. I'm seeing some. Somebody answered something about the hard cheeses. Hard cheeses or heavily fermented cheeses has much less lactose. I'm actually a little bit behind in there, so I'm gonna skip down just a little bit, see if
Go
there's
for
any
it.
more newer questions. I don't know if you see one that come up. Uh,
It does not give me access to bring them up on my side.
oh, that's right. It doesn't. I wish they would fix
It'd be
that to
nice
where
if they would allow that.
yeah, that would be awesome. Somebody asked, "How Kip? How are you doing, powwow?" There. I don't know if you probably don't know this, but I'm part of a Native American tribe, even though I don't look like it. But I am definitely. I'm actually a tribal member, and my tribe we have a huge powwow every year at Thanksgiving, and
Oh,
that's
nice.
another reason that during Thanksgiving it's like this big celebration. They do all this different stuff, and it's just huge here. And you wouldn't think it, but I mean, it definitely is. And that's another thing that's going to make it harder to stay on track during Thanksgiving.
Something I noticed because when I lived in Phoenix, I went to the Indian reservation a ton to see patients and things like that. The amount of overweight and obese people I saw on the Indian reservation was astronomical.
It is here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I live like 2 miles off the Native American reservation, and, like, there's so much obesity, there's
Mhm.
so much almost half the tribal members that I know have diabetes or both of their parents had diabetes, and another thing you would think 'cause I live in South Alabama, we get tons of sunlight here. You would think that we all have tons of vitamin D, but for some reason, I don't know if it's something in the blood or I don't know what it is, but any doctor that you ask around here, if they have Native American patients from my tribe, they'll say 90% of the time they're all going to be low in vitamin D and they have to
Could be
supplement
genetic thing.
somehow. So I don't know what it is. Like me, that's the only supplement that I take is vitamin D. And well, it's vitamin D3 with K2. And the only reason
Mhm.
that I take it is because my doctor's like, hey, man, your vitamin D levels are low. And like, I'm not going to walk around, in my boxers trying to get enough sunlight. Cause I mean, when I got clothes on, you can only get so much. And
Mhm.
so I just supplement with that. That makes me want to ask you, is there anything that you supplement with?
I do. And I mean, compared to you, I look like a vampire, but it's also because I can't get a lot of direct
Mhm.
sunlight. So I take hydroxychloroquine. I take half a dose for my autoimmune, and it essentially makes me allergic to the sunlight. I get a rash, and it's
Wow.
very hard to gauge when I've had enough, but not too much. Because one time I got slightly sunburnt, and my rash lasted like 2 weeks. It was pretty bad. So
Yeah.
I take D3 as well because I just can't get a lot of sun. I take a multivitamin which has the K2 and some other stuff in it. I do that just because as a female, I need folic acid and things like that.
Mhm.
And then like supplements, that's the only thing. Because let's see, yeah, hydroxychloroquine. I do take my fluoxetine. I do still take my antidepressant. I had a very bad run in with trying to get off of that. And then, yeah.
I saw that video that you posted, and that right there was like, because I mean, whenever you were talking about coming off, I was like excited for you. But
Mhm.
then once you actually went off and you explained everything in the video, like it was like I was like worried for you, because like that was crazy. But I'm glad you didn't you say you got back on everything to help you to level back
Yeah.
out.
I take my full dose again, and honestly, I will try again down the road to go off of it, but it's too much too soon, and I realized if I have to take it as I'm continuing to lose weight, there's nothing wrong with
Hey,
that.
puppy.
People who can get off of it, I'm actually very pleased for them, but I got down to and I tapered over. It took me 6 months to get to where I got with my dose, and just getting off that last little bit, oh, it sent me in a very bad spiral, and it is a very good thing my husband did not leave me alone for a few days because I would not be sitting here today.
Yeah, whenever you decided to come off of it, was that just something that you were thinking, "Hey, Imma do this," or did you feel like any pressure from the community or anything like that to try to come off of it? Like,
I
do you
wanted to
feel
come
forced
off of it,
into
but
it?
I definitely felt pressure. I kinda and I know some people don't mean it this way, but it kinda comes off as you're a failure if you're having to take it, and if you have to take it, you have to take it. I don't think there should be any shame around it. Yes, ideally taking no drugs is the best thing for us. But if you have to, you have to. And if it's that thing that keeps you alive, keeps you on your path. And this is why I always warn people, like, there's a big push to get all off of all your drugs, but be super safe with it. I mean,
Mhm.
it can be really scary because I'm like, oh, I only have, 10 milligrams left to get off of my antidepressant / my anti-anxiety. And no, it was very scary.
Yeah. You have 2 things in common with my wife actually, because 1, she's really white too, and then and if she goes outside if we go I live close to the Gulf Coast, so if we go to, like, Gulf Shores or Orange Beach, like, if
Mhm.
she's out there in the sunlight and doesn't have, the thing over her head for, like, the umbrella for, like, 30 minutes, she'll be like a lobster, and she will bake and be in pain for a week, and then also, she has to take medication as well, and,
Fishing.
and she didn't start taking medication till she was older, and honestly, I didn't even ask her about mentioning this, so hopefully I'm not in the doghouse after this, but, but anyway, I've noticed I mean, initially, I was that husband that was worried about her taking it in the
Mhm.
beginning, and I was kinda like, "I don't know if you need that, I don't know if you need that, maybe you can try other things," but, like, I've seen it her be better because she's on it, and
Mhm.
and I would love for her to eventually get off too, but at the same time, like, if she's doing what she needs to do for herself right now, then I just need to be supportive and, and support her because she's happier, she's not having the anxiety issues and things like that, and maybe she can one day wean herself off, but I can't just be like, "Hey, tomorrow you just need to stop taking that stuff," because that can be disastrous. And so
Yes.
if anybody needs to take anything, please do not feel shamed. Do not let people and that goes for anything in the carnivore community or not just carnivore community in life in general. Like if people are trying to force you and push you into not doing something, but you feel like you need to do it, you just need to, toughen up and do it anyway because nobody's going to take care of you like you can.
Yes.
Absolutely. Let's see. Elaine Van Tonder said, "Can you give some lunch ideas?" So, what does lunch look like for you a lot of times?
I really don't eat lunch, but I can give you food ideas because honestly, I'll eat steak for breakfast. I have no like qualms mixing things up. Bacon and eggs you could do for lunch, burger patty with or without cheese, make a chuck roast. Like I love making chuck roast in. If you haven't done this yet, Kip, you need to chuck roast in the crock pot. It's stupidly simple, and it took me so long to do this. Literally, chuck roast. You can use tallow, bacon grease, avocado oil if you use that. Chuck your meat in there, season it, lid. Do not add water. Do not add stock of any kind. It's so tempting. Don't do it. Make your chuck roast like that, 8 to 10 hours, depending on how big the piece of meat is. Then once it's tender, take the meat out, use an immersion blender, or if you don't have that, you dump it in an actual blender. Mix all the juices up to emulsify it. Chuck your meat back in there, shred it, 30 minutes, let it sit. Will blow your mind.
Mhm.
I always added water or I added like beef stock or chicken stock to it. Don't do it. It is amazing. And I used to braise. I go through all the process of braising it, seal those juices and searing it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
See, I'm big into barbecue and smoking
Mhm.
meat and stuff, so I like to take my chuck roast because chuck roast is good and it's a cheaper
Mhm.
alternative to getting ribeyes all the time,
Yes.
and you get plenty of good fat from a chuck roast and can save money that way. So, what I like to do is I'll take a chuck roast and, put it on the smoker for a little while to get some smoke flavor, and then I'll put it in, like, a little aluminum pan, and I know some people will not touch aluminum, and that's fine if you're one of those people, but they'll use aluminum pan or I'll use aluminum pan and I'll put the chuck roast in it. But what I'll do beforehand is I'll smoke some Wagyu tallow or just any tallow that I have. I'll smoke it for a few hours and get the smoke flavor in the tallow. And then I'll coat the chuck roast and then seal it up
Mhm.
in aluminum foil and it will just make it fall apart. And I love chuck roast like that because you get the smoke flavor and you get the Wagyu flavor and everything all mixed in there, and then you get the tender. It almost is like it come out of a crock pot because you wrapped it up in that foil and broke it down, and it's so
Yeah.
good.
I cheat because we don't have a smoker. I do want to get one, so maybe one day I'll have to pick your brain for that. I
Absolutely.
use the Redmond's smoked salts, and I add that to get my smoked flavor into the meat, so I cheat a little bit. Your way's
It
probably better doing the actual legitimate smoking with it.
I've used the Redmond smoked salt and I actually like it. There's nothing wrong with it. I still use it
Mhm.
sometimes, but nothing beats good smoked flavor, like the real smoked flavor. But yeah, I mean the Redmond smoked salt for 90% of the people, because a lot of people are using the air fryers and all that.
Yeah,
And I'd say if you're doing that, use the Redmond smoked
do it.
salt or whatever brand you like, because that stuff's good.
Mhm.
But man, if you ever get you a barbecue pit, man, you won't never go back. You'll be
My
like, "I should have had one
husband
sooner," because it's like having an oven, but it
yes.
doesn't heat up your house, and it gives you amazing flavor.
Yeah, I wanna get one. My husband's, like, biting, chomping at the bit to get one. I love smoked meats, so
Yeah.
probably gonna
Well,
do that
before you
soon.
get one, talk to me, because I got
I will.
multiple different types, and I can give you recommendations on what ones work and different price ranges and all that stuff. Absolutely. I don't mind helping you out with
Oh,
that.
other
But
lunch ideas? I don't know if in your area you have beef kielbasa, it's a brand. They have grass-fed
mhm.
beef kielbasa, those are super good. You could do all beef hot dogs, literally any kind of meat, eat it for lunch. That's my lunch idea.
Yeah. Those are good tips for lunch, and you can never go wrong with things like eggs and things like that. Even at lunchtime, like, a lot of people think you can only have them for breakfast. I'll eat an egg for lunch, I don't care. I'll eat it for
Mhm.
supper, I'll eat an egg anytime. Somebody asked me, you probably don't know, but this past weekend, I went off plan, and there was some drama on my channel, buddy, because I went off
Oh
plan.
boy.
And like, because there's people that, I'll say this: 90% of the people genuinely care and they want to see me do good. There's that 5% or whatever that is just like, you can never please them, and they
Yeah.
just go on and on and on in the comment section, the same people multiple times over and over. And so, but I went off plan. My wife and I, we went to Atlanta, and I went all out. You'd be upset with me, Amanda, because I ate everything that I could think of while I was in Atlanta. But whenever I got home, I started back yesterday, and I got right back on track. And and so yesterday I had a lot of steak and stuff like that. And actually today, while I was working, I worked from home today, so I smoked a brisket while I was working, and I hurried up and ate some brisket right before we had the chat. And there's nothing that'll get you back on track like some good smoked brisket.
I'll
But
have to pick your brain for the brisket idea too, because I love brisket.
oh man, a lot of people are scared to cook brisket, but I'm telling you, once you do it a couple times, you're like, oh, I got this, I can do it. I mean, it might be hard to make it as good as like people that really folk study it, but you
Yeah,
will make it better than most restaurants at home just by learning a couple tricks. You'll be able to
beautiful.
nail it. So absolutely. Let's see. I might take one more question and then we'll wrap it up, because somebody's saying Bruton, they're from Bruton, Alabama. That's like not far from where I live. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I get one more question in. On Oh, that's not a question. It On a keto carnivore diet, it's pretty difficult to get a sunburn. How's that for you? Or do you still burn easy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but at
I
the same
haven't.
time, I have drugs causing issues with my skin, so,
Mm-hmm. Well, look, it was awesome to have you on here. I guess we'll end with one more thing. Like, I'll ask you this before we go. So, if you could give yourself some type of, if you can think of one trigger that you've learned that you have, like if you
Mhm.
can get a trigger in your mind, and like one thing that's caused you to fall off the rails during your journey. And the reason I'm asking this is because maybe somebody else has that same trigger
Yeah.
and they can learn something from it. How have you learned to 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 a defense mechanism for that trigger to not allow the stumble to happen? Like, have you had something that triggered you, but then you've had to do something differently or shake up your routine to where that trigger doesn't happen?
I think the number one thing that I really wish I'd known sooner is the out of sight, out of mind. Because
Mm,
I've actually cleaned our house out 3 times, and it was the 3rd time that I finally got rid of everything. Like, I have no literally, I have no sugar in my house anywhere. And I'm sorry if someone comes to my house and they want coffee, because we do drink coffee. Coffee with sugar, we don't have it. Bring your own. Getting
Yeah.
all of that out, all of our cabinets, we have no nuts. We have nothing, like, because I did keto too. I got rid of all of that. I got rid of the coconut flour, the almond flour. I got rid of all of it. Having that
Mhm.
out is the best decision I had ever made. My husband and I actually donated a ton of our like food reserves, tomatoes and this and that. We took to the food bank and gave it away.
Mhm.
That is like the most important thing that I could wish I'd started sooner, because then it takes the triggering away. Like, if
Mhm.
I don't see it in my house, I have to take more action to go to the store and get it. And I have to think more about it versus, hey, just reaching into the cabinet and getting the cookies or the whatever out of the house. That would be
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I would say for me, I have, you're very fortunate that your spouse is doing on this journey with you and helping you and all that with that. My wife, she supports me fully, but she's definitely not carnivore and she's not scared to say it. And so she's, if in order for me to kick sugar out of my house, I'd have to kick her out of my house. And I can't kick her out. I love her too much. And so I have to learn how to, fight those cravings. And thankfully, the more I'm on track, the more
Mhm.
that I'm doing good for a long time, it doesn't affect me as much. Because I know, like, if I'm like a couple days into being carnivore or a couple weeks back on track, like if I see her eating some junk food, I'm like, man, I'd love to have that. But if I'm like 2 or 3 months in, I can look at it and it doesn't phase me as much. But a trigger of mine has been seeing signs like of restaurants and stuff. I'll be driving down the road and I'll see a Popeyes chicken sign and I'm like, ooh, I want one of them chicken sandwiches. And so I've had to learn, I'm trying to learn to, look away from it. Like, don't look at it. You know that it's there. You already know that that sign's there. So just when you're driving by there, pay attention to the road or something like that. And there's been times even during Halloween, because during Halloween, all the different little candies was like I wanted to grab them, but I decided to just, hey, when it gets real bad, just drink some water. Or a lot of people say, hey, have some butter with you or have something like that and do like a butter bomb or whatever the stuff's called.
Do
But
you
that's
ever
one thing that
use
I've done.
Redmond salt crystal?
I haven't tried that.
Okay, this is gonna change your world. You can't get it off Amazon. You have to get it directly from them because they sell their other salts on Amazon. But it is just go to Redmond's. Redmond's real salt, y'all. I talk about this frequently. They have salt crystals. I call them salt rocks because they literally look like a rock. And it's like $14 for a bag that'll probably last you years. And what you do is, I actually have one in almost every room of my house. I carry one in my purse. You could take one to work with you. When you have a craving hit, you suck on it a few times and drink some water. A lot of times, cravings, your body's just wanting some salt or water. It cuts through it crazy good. Like 95% of the time, if I'm having a craving and I use that salt rock, actually changed my mind. That's what I would tell myself. People told me this and I ignored it for like 5 months. And then I finally did it. I'm like, oh my God, this is a game changer. Using the salt crystal is crazy good. Get it. I promise you, you will not regret it. Now that we talk about that, that is the one thing I wish I had started sooner and gotten. Some people said I think they ordered the Himalayan ones on Amazon. Please don't
Mhm.
use a salt lamp. I actually don't know exactly what they cover those in. Please use edible salt if you're going to do it. But I like Redmond salt crystals. And they're like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I took a rock hammer and broke one of them that was really big. Use it.
Mhm.
I promise it'll change your view.
I actually just saved that in my phone. That way I can check those out later because I
Yeah.
definitely, that sounds like something that would be good to have at my
Mhm.
office whenever something comes up or
Yep.
somebody's eating something. Because sometimes they'll walk in there and they'll smell the office up with different stuff. And I could just go to something like that that would help me out and curb that craving. So thank you for that. And look,
Mhm.
I want you to know that I really appreciate you taking the time to be on here tonight. Like, I really mean it whenever I say that your channel was one of the first channels that I started watching. And like, you definitely helped me without even knowing it. So thank you so much for helping me and thank you for sharing your story. I want to see more people share their stories and I'm sure you want to see more people share their stories as well.
Thank you. And I'm That means a lot to me, Kip. Like, it really does, because that's the whole point of what I do is I want to make tomorrow slightly better than today for everybody. And being overweight is the extra fat just hides who we are. And it's a
Mhm.
hard place to be, and I know you know that. It is a very
Absolutely.
hard place to be, and it really does hide who we are and it covers us in shame. So the fact that you've made it as far as you have, I'm super proud of you. Really,
Thank
I
you.
am.
Thank you, and you're absolutely right by saying that because I'm learning things about me that I didn't know before, and, like, 'cause I'll tell people all the time I've been overweight my whole life, and I've never met a small Kipp. I've never met me.
Mhm.
I've been over 400 pounds since I was 18 years old, and so I don't know what it's like to be small, and, like, I can't wait to meet that version of me and just see what that health feels like and see what and, like, I seen you in a video going paddleboarding and all this stuff, and I wanna be able to do those things, and
Don't
Carnivore is
don't
gonna
wait.
be a tool that will help me get there.
I expect to be hearing this spring, summer that you have done it because I was 310 pounds. You gotta remember, I'm only 5'5.5", so I'm quite a bit shorter than you.
Mhm.
I was doing it at 310 pounds. I was not gonna let my weight stop me. So do not let that be a reason to not go and do it. Who cares if you look stupid in the beginning? We all look stupid doing new things in the beginning, anyways.
Yeah, as long as I don't sink the boat, I'll do it. And right now I'm down under 400, but I was right at 500, so I'm getting there,
You'd be
and like you
fine.
said, I'm taller, like, I'm 6'4", so I've got
Mhm.
height that helps out hide my weight a little bit, but I'm headed in the right direction, but thank you so
Yeah.
much for chatting with me tonight, and you're an inspiration to me, and I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you,
Thank you.
and I got a link shared to your channel for my subscribers that are watching. If y'all haven't subscribed to her channel, definitely go check her out.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all. Bye,
Take
Kip.
care. Bye.